Hi, everyone. So we're here at our office in Houston. Rose Sanders. It's me, Erica Rose, and
J.A. Wright.
and so for those of y'all that don't know, Jay works with us at Rose Sanders. He's graduating and becoming our associate attorney. He's been with us now for a couple years. Came here from Chicago and brought with him a lot of experience, especially in the music industry, the overall entertainment industry. But we've been having a lot of conversations ourselves about everything that's gone down in Houston recently with Astroworld. And so I think it's cool to share things from an information standpoint and not just like a legal perspective.
Correct. That's perfect.
Yeah. So in your opinion, having worked in the music industry and then like around so many productions, who would you feel like is liable?
Liability has a number of nuances, and I feel like there are a number of parties that would be liable, not including the artist first. The artist would probably be last. However, it would start probably at the top of the production agencies, the venue, different individuals within the host rankings, and then flowing all the way down to the artist, probably last.
And I think that's such a good point because these artists, they perform not just all over the country, but all over the world. And this is one of the first time that a crisis of this level has happened. So as you were saying, it's like the liability falls on the venue, on the city. But something interesting that's been coming out just recently is now there's been suits filed over with Live Nation, Apple Music, but still they're including the artists individually, Travis Scott and also Drake. So what do you feel about all that?
So while companies like Apple Music and Live Nation, they have real currency, artists have social currency. So pretty much it's really a clout grab for a lot of attorneys to go at the artist because, hey, that's going to get mentioned in TMZ before a lawsuit against Live Nation.
What do you feel like, knowing artists yourself, that they're stressing over this, or they know legally they're protected with their teams, their connections, their lawyers, and the truth, not being truly liable?
I would say any lawsuit would bring some type of stress, but many artists have a firm belief in themselves. That's how they got to that point. So they aren't as embattled as you would think regarding these, although they probably feel sympathetic regarding the lives that were taken due to this mass injury.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I don't know if you remember, a few years ago, I remember hearing something that happened at an Ariana Grande concert over, I think it was in London, and there were some fatalities involved, but for whatever reason, people weren't, they were not throwing her under the table as much and even suing her. I don't remember hearing about.
So Ariana Grande concert and a more lively rap concert would be categorized differently regarding the actions that take place, the type of music that's going on. However, I don't think it should be different.
Yeah, exactly.
Liability should be quite equal.
But why do you think it is that we weren't hearing? We heard about it. Ariana said she was sad, just like these artists did, similar sentiments that were real. But why was there not all these lawsuits after her, personally, in your opinion?
Probably because it happened in Houston, Texas. And Houston is an emerging market for entertainment, and suing rather larger artists like Drake, who's at the top, who's at the pinnacle of his career at this point, and Travis Scott, who's peaking that way, it would be very easily to blame them for these things.
Well, and I think it's really sad that Travis, being from Houston, should be celebrated and has been celebrated even by our own mayor, rightfully, as a hometown hero, and coming back to Houston, doing Astroworld because like we grew up in Houston with the theme park Astroworld, and that's like a nod to that. And I think it's really sad that hometown haters is such a thing, more than ever.
Yeah, everybody loves you until they hate you. So.
Yeah. And it's almost like they're worse to him because he's from here in a way, locally.
Which is the truth. I mean, just recently, a rapper by the name of Young Dolph was killed in his hometown by people that he sees probably every day. So hometown hate is always real. But
so why do you think it is that we see this hometown hate happening?
Really because of success. Success breeds envy, as we all know. So really, when you're in your own town and you're moving and shaking as you used to, you can't really move the same way, even though you feel like you should be able to. Which is why Travis is probably affected the same way with the local Houston attorneys trying to sue him, which is probably why artists like Young Dolph in that particular realm are targeted by individuals that they probably see every day.
When was that? When did that happen?
So this probably happened a few days ago. He
Wow.
was unfortunately murdered outside of a cookie shop, getting cookies for his
Where
mother.
was this?
Memphis, Tennessee.
It's crazy that we're seeing so much of this happening in Texas and in the South. But in LA, like I used to live there, obviously, and work in the industry. And I do feel that it's more supportive. But at the same time, I was actually surprised, truly, that my friends who are attorneys in LA, very educated people in the industry, were not, they understood that Drake was just there to make a cameo, basically, and perform. And they all think so highly of him out there, as does everybody. But some of my friends that are attorneys in LA were we're trying to put liability on Travis, and I was confused because I thought that as an attorney and an entertainment attorney, they would understand things.
So generally, an attorney is supposed to place liability on everyone and let it fall off where it's supposed to. But here, it feels like artists are probably targeted first. And some lawsuits don't even include Live Nation, but they include Travis Scott, which is very confusing to me, as Travis Scott did not plan it solely himself.
Right. But why do you think that even people outside of Houston are wanting to target him? Is it because of his involvement with like the Kardashian family? Because I actually was like traumatized because I was meeting with a family law attorney about a case. And he told me he was suing Travis Scott personally to try to extort money out of the Kardashians. I swear. I was like, what are you doing? This guy is like a board certified family law attorney.
Social currency is a very expensive thing that many attorneys do want, but every attorney can't have.
But don't you think it would be more impressive to say, we're the attorneys like representing Travis Scott? Not like we sued him. Like that's not that exciting.
I mean, but everybody doesn't have that ability, so you have to get in where you fit in, essentially. And some attorneys feel like they fit in on that side.
But speaking of that, like how would you, since we're not taking these cases at all, unless it was to represent creatives like the artists or, Apple, or I mean, they have so many lawyers, but executive producers. But my point is, how would you have felt in this situation? And you can be real with me. Let's say it was like a week or two ago, and we knew different people whose families had been at the concert, even people working with us, like had been there, and some of them were fine. But regardless, how would you have felt hypothetically if we came back like a week ago and said, guess what, we're signing up all these cases on Astroworld, we're going after Travis Scott. Personally, he's so bad for doing this, and I came to you like that. How would you have felt about it?
So initially, I would feel sorry for the families that lost loved ones. But then I would take it to where you said we're suing Travis Scott personally. And I don't think that would be the best route to go in this instance, because Travis Scott is not the reason that they died.
Right.
The reason that they died was the mismanagement of the actual venue at the time of Travis Scott's concert, which are two separate things.
Do you feel it's mainly to blame NRG, the stadium? They're like the concert venue, or do you think that these others that are including Apple Music and Live Nation are on the right path to include the production company and the host company?
So it would be a number of individuals, not just Live Nation, because Live Nation does concerts every day. You don't see this normally happening.
Yeah.
So it would be security, it would be several other factors. There are more inciting incidents within this case than one artist performing one song that caused a rage.
And also, it's like, who are these people that were sneaking around, injecting people, all this stuff?
Yeah, so I actually heard that was false.
Oh, so that didn't happen.
So apparently the cop got on the news once again and said, hey, that didn't happen, or the original cop lied about that.
So that guy is probably like the most responsible, because he is lying about, being
I mean, so initially it probably wasn't a lie. He probably was just struck or starstruck by the events going on. But of course, the truth always prevails.
Okay, so it's constantly like a moving part. But in your professional opinion and based on all your knowledge of the industry, I'm not asking you to play judge or like predict the future, but just if you had to say in your opinion, what do you think the end result of all this litigation is going to be?
As with many lawsuits, settlements will be abreast for all of the parties. But I'm not sure how many actual people that were really injured will be compensated proportionately. However, I do think that the attorneys will probably make a lot of money, which is probably not the best thing here, but
yeah, it's kind of sad when the attorneys are the ones that walks away making money and not the victims.
Mm-hmm.
The families of like the deceased, you know. But even sometimes as a parent, I'm like hearing about 14-year-old kids going, and I feel like I'm not trying to like point fingers, but I wouldn't let my kids go at 14 by themselves, and my parents didn't let me. So why isn't anyone saying that?
So I did go to concerts when I was 14 by myself, with friends, of course. But I think if I saw something traumatic like a dead body laying next to me, I think
But these
some
are
type
people,
of
kids that
injury
died. One of these kids died at the concert, and I don't know if that specific family is pursuing things, but at the same time, like, I can't imagine as a parent, they should probably ask themselves, like, well, maybe if I have more kids, I need to be more careful because the world's changing these days. You know?
But it shouldn't be falling on the parents when they let their kids go to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be their exact liability.
Okay, so what do you think is the biggest difference of like a JoJo Siwa concert versus a Travis Scott?
Although I'm not familiar with JoJo Siwa.
What? You don't know she was on Dancing with the Stars?
I'm not familiar
Oh
with
my gosh,
JoJo
I
Siwa.
can't.
However, a Travis Scott concert is probably much more based in maybe a young adult teenage form.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably includes a lot of mosh pits and things of that nature, which maybe a JoJo Siwa, while I'm not familiar with her music exactly, probably sure that it's a seated sing-along vibe with the concert.
I would hope so.
So those can be different variables. However, security and the venue itself has the ability and opportunity to make sure that these things are regulated and sanctioned.
Yeah.
And until they take the responsibility in regulating and sanctioning these events, you probably won't see a Travis Scott style concert for quite some time.
Yeah.
Especially in festivals if they're not sectioned off correctly.
I agree with that. Hypothetically, do you think that an attorney could effectively be handling these cases and this litigation and kind of be groundbreaking and not include the artists, or does that just not make sense at all?
Given the fact that this concert has his namesake on it, being Travis Scott, I think that you have to name him, but I don't think liability should automatically fall on him.
And what about those that are including Drake? Are they just truly not savvy enough with the way the music industry works, and that's why they're including him?
I would say they're not savvy with the way that concerts actually are held at this point in time. Especially with hip-hop concerts, you never know what artists will be brought out on stage at that point, so you just can't name everybody because somebody happened to die in the concert, unfortunately.
What advice do you have and maybe recommendations for people who are trying to just educate themselves more about the situation and just not believing everything they see, especially on like the local news in Houston?
The first thing I would say is to research how personal injury actually works within the state of Texas. And then from there, how actual concerts and venues handle themselves as far as liability and how they handle themselves as far as concerts that go on, maybe sporting events and things of that nature. Seeing the differences between those and nuances will allow you to be able to interpret the situation that occurred at Astroworld and how it went wrong and what can be brought forward in the future in order for individuals not to experience this again. That's
really good advice. So if you guys want to see more, we're going to put up this blog and interview on our website at rosesanderslaw.com. Of course, you can follow us on Instagram and tell everyone your personal Instagram.
You can follow me on Instagram at hlwd.j, hlwd.j.
I recommend doing that. I mean, just since you've been here with us at the firm, I've learned a lot about music from you. I remember, you might not remember this, but like a year ago, I was like, who's your favorite artist right now? And you told me it was Drake. And of course, I knew him from when he was on Degrassi, like that show I used to watch. But I hadn't checked out his music until like you reminded me of that. And I started listening and I really love it. So I feel like you bring so much to the table here.
Definitely. One of my artists that I represent is currently going on tour, a part of G Herbo's 25 tour. So it works perfectly.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think it's just important, and I'm glad we had this conversation to inform people, educate them, so that people can make their opinions from an educated perspective and not just believing everything they see on TV, on the news, on social media.
Correct.
Yes. Thanks, guys.